you remember the deal?" said the guide through Tunny. "Of course," said Morris. "You bring us here, you get paid, you leave before nightfall." "Before late afternoon," said Tunny. He says he does not always wait for night, but it comes before night does, or in the night as it sees fit, and he wants to be gone before then. He wants to be gone before it discovers that you are here, if it does not know already, before it hunts. Morris turned his gaze to the slope below him. The camp was springing up smoothly, like watching a time-lapse film of a new city emerging. Perimeter cameras, tents, a latrine, fires over which dangled blackened cooking pots. He moved down into the cluster of tents, looking for his own, and realised to his irritation that the guide and Tunny had come with him and were still talking. "He says you should leave," said Tunny. Morris stopped and looked at the guide. Astonishingly, the man looked upset, was twisting his ridiculous hat between his hands and speaking in a fast stream of unintelligible local dialect. Tunny nodded, and Morris was glad to see that even he looked uncomfortable, was struggling to keep up with the ever-increasing flow of wattle stops and run-on consonants that rose in pitch the longer the guide spoke. He was adding gestures into the mix now, Morris saw, widely flinging his arms around and pointing at the forest, and then jabbing his hand back the way they had come to the scrubland and the distant plain. "He says this is a cursed place," said Tunny finally, "that the thing you seek is a curse made flesh, and that it will destroy you as it destroyed those that came before you. That it moves in silence and eats at leisure, and it steps between the trees like a ghost." Morris waved a dismissive hand. He knew about the rumours of earlier expeditions, about Cathcart's disastrous hunting trip, and Jackson's photograph of something blurred and huge, about the missing surveyors, Clifton and Willett. They and every other strange sighting and missing prospector were what had brought Morris here. All the triangulated data, all the eyewitness accounts excavated from dusty files and police records and pamphlets and out-of-print books, they had all led him here. It was his last chance of success before the money was removed. And although he had neither the time nor the explanation to explain this to the guide, so he simply said, "Thank him for his concern. Tell him we're very well equipped, and if he's happy with his payment, he can go." Once the message was relayed, the guide let loose with another string of shouted indications, his arms wild, his hat flapping. But finally, seeing he was getting nowhere, he turned and walked quickly back along the trampled path and into the trees. "You seem very insistent," said Tunny. "It's what they after more money," said Morris. "They normally are." In the morning, a delegation of bearers came to Morris's tent, led by Tunny. One held a hat that Morris recognised but could not at first place. Tunny said, "They found this getting water this morning." "It's the guide's hat," said Morris, suddenly realising where he'd seen it before. "They think something's happened to him. They want to search," said Tunny. "No," said Morris immediately. "It's taken us far longer to get here than we first anticipated, and we haven't much time. Besides, he probably just dropped it." "It was found by the lake shore, in the opposite direction to the one he went off in," said Tunny. "Maybe he went for a drink," said Morris, but even he didn't believe it. By God, he thought, another one. They couldn't have been luckier unless they'd stumbled over it having a nap. "Tell them we'll look for it while we look for the creature. We'll start by the lake where the hat was found. There would be tracks, fresh tracks, a trail," was all Morris could do to keep a smile from his face. The lakeshore was cool, the water seeming to draw the heat from the morning air and hold it in wreaths of mist that drifted across the surface. The shore was a stretch of mud dotted with large grey rocks, some slick with moss and others bare, like ancient teeth lost in brown gumbers. It was a treasure trove of evidence. The earth held prints, but better yet, there was a fresh pile of dung near to where the hat had been found, a conical mass the consistency of newly dug clay. It stank, its tang sharp and acrid, and its colour was a vile chalky green. They tried to follow the prints, tracking them back towards the camp where they ended in confusion of overlapping and smudged prints just below the tree line. Standing in the churned earth, Morris looked through the trees and saw that most of the indentations faced their tents, not 200 or 300 yards distant. He wondered if it was the smell of their cooking that had attracted it, or the noise they had been making. He would be sure to tell everyone to keep their owners and conversation to a minimum. In the end, they set the trap and bait near the lakeside, close to the pile of dung, wrapping it in foliage and packing it full of fresh meat. The metal cage was hard to see, but hopefully easy to smell. Perched in a hastily constructed hive, Morris felt the excitement building him. After all the planning and the false starts and failures, after the last 9 days of travel and inhospitable terrain, always searching and never finding, they were finally there. Finally. The atmosphere changed. Around them, silence was forming, the silence of anticipation and the things hiding. Morris' breathing shortened and tightened. He pushed himself up against the hide's wall, leaning further out, trying to peer further into the distance. In the near distance, the trees shivered, and there was no breeze to move them. The shiver approached, the branches dancing back and forth, a ripple descending the slope towards them. He caught a whiff of something, fly blown and heavy, and then a large shadow slipped across his vision, moving between the trunks like a patch of liquid darkness. Morris tensed. The time had arrived. Something was coming.